Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jessica Gutierrez Elias. I'm a CHCI fellow sponsored by UFCW. I'm delighted to be with you today for this panel discussion titled Digital Assets, Revolutionizing the Future of Global Remittances. The cryptocurrency space has fostered a global community of enthusiasts and developers. It empowers individuals to take control of their financial future and participate in the development of new technologies and projects. The growing interest in cryptocurrencies has led to discussions about regulation and how to integrate them into existing financial systems. This debate is important for shaping the future of finance and ensuring its responsible use, and we are excited to bring this discussion to CHCI stage. On behalf of CHCI, I would like to thank Coinbase for the exclusive sponsorship of this event. Congressman Soto will not be here today, but I'm going to introduce David London with his sponsor remarks.
Good afternoon. My name is David London. I'm the head of state policy at Coinbase. Esteemed guests, leaders, and participants, I want to thank you for gathering here today. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for gathering here and joining us in this panel discussion as part of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute's 2023 Leadership Conference. As we come together during the month to celebrate Hispanic heritage, we were reminded of the theme of the event, our moment in history, which serves to highlight the remarkable legacies and achievements of the Latino community continues to leave on our great nation. From arts to science to politics to business, the contributions of the Hispanic community are vast and varied. This leadership conference serves to further that legacy of innovation, culture, and leadership. In the spirit of fostering technology and innovation and strengthening community ties, we at Coinbase are thrilled to announce a special segment today titled Digital Assets, Revolutionizing the Future of Global Remittances. As technology propels us forward, cryptocurrencies and blockchain stand out, not just as innovative tools, but as bridges that connect us with families, friends across borders and across the world. Historically, international transactions have been hindered by tedious processes of significant fees. Yet consider nations like El Salvador, where remittances are from 27% of the GDP of that nation. For many American citizens, sending money back home isn't just a transaction. It means to uplift communities and enhance living standards for your loved ones. It's a means to uplift communities as well. Through digital currencies, we're not just witnessing technological innovation, we're experiencing more personal, inclusive, and efficient global financial systems. We're excited to have you all join us today for this exciting panel discussion, where together we will explore these technologies' societal implications and help show the impact they have in making a more inclusive technological and financial landscape, both domestically and internationally. Hope you enjoy the panel discussion today, everyone.
Thank you, David, for your remarks, and thanks again to Coinbase for their sponsorship. It is now my pleasure to introduce Congressman Darren Soto. Congressman Soto was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 2016 to represent Florida's 9th Congressional District. Born to a Puerto Rican father and Italian-American mother, Representative Soto's upbringing influenced his passion for public service. The first Floridian of Puerto Rican descent to serve in Congress, Representative Soto is proud to represent the hardworking men and women who make Central Florida's theme parks world-renowned, who grow more citrus and raise more cattle than anywhere else in the state, and who explore the farthest reaches of the galaxy from the Kennedy Space Center. Now in his fourth term, Representative Soto has established himself as a strong advocate for the environment, hurricane relief, emerging technologies, and the fight to protect the health and safety of his constituents. He currently serves on the House Committee of Energy and Commerce and the House Committee of Agriculture, is the co-chair of Policy of the Future Forum Caucus, vice chair of Policy of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and many more. Please join me in providing a warm welcome to Congressman Darren Soto.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for CHCI for hosting us. Thank you to Coinbase and our esteemed guests. I know a lot of folks on the panel here already. You know, when I think about what does it mean to be Hispanic, or even broader, Latino, We're talking about Caribbean. We're talking about Central America and South America and parts of North America like Mexico, as well as us being the biggest minority group in the nation. So think about all those countries we hail from. Some of them are very stable and are reliable U.S. partners. Some of them sadly face tragedy, dictators and attacks from people's own governments. Places like Venezuela, where we've worked closely with the people to try to help with the issues we're dealing with there. Several countries in Central America face a challenge with stability there. And so what does diasporas do here in the United States to help as they're working hard throughout many states to help their families back home? And think about the currencies in those different countries. Some of them, those currencies have collapsed. And so that's where working through cryptocurrency to help with remittances will become an increasingly important part of how so many hardworking Hispanic Americans are able to help their families back home. I'm honored to be co-chair of the Blockchain Caucus. We've worked on a lot of issues related to this, whether it's on the more technology side, through food tracing, and through supply chains, which we were just talking about today in the Energy and Commerce Committee, or talking about the fiscal aspects through cryptocurrency through the Ag Committee with the recent FIT bill that we just passed out of both the Ag Committee and the Financial Services Committee. I had my staff look at how big this market is, and it shouldn't surprise anybody. We're talking about last year global remittances were over $647 billion. That's a bigger GDP than most countries in the world. To Latin American countries alone, it's $127 billion. And so we know, as folks are looking at how to help bring value back to their loved ones in areas where the fiat currency has collapsed, this is becoming an increasingly valuable alternative. The World Bank estimates that an average of 6.25% of the amount sent is costs of the transaction for traditional remittances. When sending digital assets, the fees can vary, but they can be as low as $1.50 for an average transaction per Coinbase, our lovely host here. And then we could avoid the delays that can happen sometimes as digital assets can be transferred in minutes. So I think about in a place like Venezuela where the fiat currency has collapsed, it faced hyperinflation. In Florida, we're welcoming many folks into the parole program, and they're working in a lot of our small businesses, but still have a lot of family back home. And I've talked to a lot of folks who said this is really one of their only options right now. We've seen also, it's important to note that Latin American countries have helped lead the way in digital currency, as several of the top 20 global adopters, including Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, and Ecuador. And so we also know we have to protect consumers in the process. We want the U.S. to have better regulatory certainty so we can promote entrepreneurs here. But when I look at what the future for my district is, it'll be small businesses doing international transactions like tour guides and folks with international client bases for our local hotels, and it'll be for the hard-working men and women working in Central Florida who are trying to better their families back in their countries of origin. So thank you, CHCI, for inviting me here. Thank you to Coinbase for the great work that you're doing, and this is a really important conversation for our community to have. Appreciate everybody, and hope you have a great conference. Oh yeah, I'll be at a bunch of seats.
Thank you, Congressman, for your remarks and everything you do for the Latinos in Florida. Oh, sorry. I'd like to introduce our fabulous moderator for this panel, Clev Mesidor. Clev is the executive director of the Blockchain Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit leading an industry-wide education campaign. Clev is also a Forbes contributor and a mayoral appointee to the DC Innovation and Technology Inclusion Council. Previously, she was a public policy advisor to Blockchain Association. Clev is a Web3 expert and has been working in crypto for over 6 years. She has been profiled on CNBC, ABC, NPR, PBS, New York Times, Washington Post, Politico, and Time. She was featured in the PBS documentary Crypto Decoded, as well as the Coinbase documentary Coin, A Founder Story. Clev is a respected industry leader and regularly headlines national tech conferences. On the global stage, she has spoken at Web3 and DeFi forums in Abu Dhabi, Toronto, Amsterdam, and the Bahamas. Please join me in welcoming Clev Mesidor.
Thank you, Jessica. Well, thank you, Jessica, for that wonderful introduction. And we're thrilled to kick off the conversation, but I want to extend a special thank you to Congressman Darren Soto. He has been such a champion of financial inclusion in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Since 2019, we've been doing a Women of Color in Blockchain congressional delegation, and each year he supported us since 2019. So we continue to thank him not just for looking to emerging technologies, but also ensuring and working and to make sure that inclusion is part of the future of finance. Well, I want to welcome each of you for joining us. We have a great conversation in store, and we definitely want audience participation. So feel free to, share your feedback about this panel on social media. Make sure you use the hashtag CHCI HHM23. Again, that hashtag is CHCI HHM23. I'm truly honored to lead this session. This is not my first time moderating for CHCI. I moderated CHCI's blockchain panel in 2020, and I also last year spoke at their Education and Economic Empowerment and Health Summit, where they actually spoke about blockchain and cryptocurrency. So this is important because we need to make sure we're educating our communities about the benefits and risks of this space. And CHCI, I commend them for actually making sure this conversation continues to be part of the narrative. I want to also thank Coinbase for being an exclusive sponsor of this conversation and this event. Now, how many of you send money abroad to family and friends? My hands are raised as well. As the congressman said, I'm actually from the Caribbean. I'm from Haiti. We are surrounded by Cuba, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic. But we're constantly sending money back home, right? And we know the pain points. Well, today we're going to talk about digital assets like cryptocurrencies and how they are revolutionizing the future of global remittances, which is just a great way to say sending money back home. Now, we all know the challenges, right? The congressman mentioned some of them. The system is hindered by lengthy processes, steep fees, intermediaries, and also the risk of fraud. Right? At the core of the problem is those of us in diaspora communities here in the US, we want to send money back home, and we want to get it quickly to our relatives and our friends, but that's not always the case. So digital assets like cryptocurrencies offer solutions, because at the end of the day, the more options individuals have, the more inclusive money becomes. So we want to make sure that we are giving people more options. So we're gonna get started. I do wanna let you know that we will have Q&A, so get your questions ready. I'm delighted to be joined by three very dynamic experts on this topic. Natalie Gill from Darshana is an award-winning technology leader, founder, angel investor. Dave Grimaldi from Blockchain Association has served in leadership positions in Congress and at the FCC. Christian Narvaez, I'm always butchering his last name, is co-founder of Web3 Familia and founder and managing partner of Rio Capital. I'm going to have each of them share a bit more about their background, but before we dive in, I want to level set a bit and share a few basic definitions. Right? We all hear about blockchain and cryptocurrency. So for me, I like to tell people, for me, blockchain is simply technology that does three things. It is technology that securely verifies information, facilitates the exchange of value, without third parties. Let me say that again. Blockchain is technology that securely verifies information. That's the ledger. Facilitates the exchange of value. That's cryptocurrencies. Without third parties, that's decentralization. So those are the three tenets for me. Now, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that most of you have heard of, think of them like the light, beautiful and bright. But what powers light is electricity, right? Just like what powers Bitcoin is blockchain technology. Now, that may sound interesting to you, but what's even more interesting is the fact that imagine what a waste it would be if all we did with electricity was light. So we can't just use blockchain for cryptocurrencies, right? Imagine all of the things we do with electricity other than light. So that is the power and the potential. You've heard about Web3. It means exactly what it says, the third iteration of the web. We're in Web 2 right now. We need and rely on social media, but there are problems. How can we leverage blockchain, smart contracts, machine learning to actually solve some of these problems and have much more immersive experiences? So that's the potential of Web 3, leveraging emerging technologies to get us to that next level. And then you hear about the metaverse. We're definitely not there yet, but the vision is for a more immersive experience. And I say we're not here yet because we're not talking enough about non-technical users. And lastly, you hear about DeFi, decentralized finance. It's just a very, very clever term to talk about three things that we do within finance right now. Financial services, there are three key things we do. We borrow, we lend, we trade. All of those require an intermediary. To borrow money, to lend, to trade, you need a banker or broker. So DeFi is reimagining these things with less intermediaries so that we can actually do these things with less intermediaries. And because we're here at the CHCI, I'm from the Caribbean. Many of you are Latino or Latinx or Latin. We find ways around these things, right? We found ways to lend our families and our communities money outside of banks. We've had to. So I wanted to share those basic definitions before we dove in. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Our speakers, I'm going to start by asking each of them to share a bit more about their background, what attracted them to the space, and also share a bit about how they feel the Latino community has been impacted or benefited. We'll start with ladies first. Natalie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm a systems engineer by training. I'm a builder, so I build things. You don't need to be a coder or a programmer. You can build things. And years after in my career, I was in finance, always in technology, many technology companies, and so what I did was I found a space where I was doing research at grad school around blockchain around 2016. So then I started doing some evangelism around blockchain because there was a lot of things going on news about crypto, but also the value of building on blockchain. So I think from that it caught my attention. I've been around for a longer time to got into hypes for some technologies before. Now it's AI, generative AI, but I keep pushing and you can build that. You have the power to build that. So in particular, in our community, in the Latino community, Latinx community, there's a lot of things that I found when I started, putting together initiatives worldwide to get more people to build in different backgrounds. Journalists, college professors, psychologists, technical people, doesn't matter. You have a good idea, you can learn, and you can build it. That's the base of Web3. No matter who you are, if you can build, you can demonstrate, you can do things, you're in. So I'll stop there because there's more interesting things to dive deep into, but that's what I wanted to say.
Great insights. Dave?
Sure. Clev, thank you. Thank you for having me. And this is tremendous, just to be joined by such distinguished people on the stage. So the way that I got into this industry is it's colored by my past as a staffer in the House of Representatives and then at a regulatory agency. I worked for Jim Clyburn from South Carolina. And while in his office, I heard hundreds and hundreds of stories of rural South Carolinians who could not open bank accounts who they could not get access to wealth building, or even after going in the door of a Bank of America or Wells Fargo, they couldn't get any further than that. They were denied because they did not have the proper utility bills. They were very serious and earnest about how can we keep our money safe. And this was 2010, 2011. It was after the subprime mortgage crisis when traditional finance went through the hurricane that it went through without a whole lot of accountability, whole separate story, whole separate panel. And that kind of really got in my head, colored my thinking about, I come from 4 immigrant grandparents. I know that they, I'm certain, had these far more difficulties and hardships in terms of the little money that they made in the 40s and 50s. So all that got into my head. And I then went to be a chief of staff at a regulatory agency, and I learned how regulation can form exactly how congressionally passed laws are implemented. And the shaping of that really will determine what happens in the market and what happens to consumers. And a couple of years ago, the Blockchain Association, we're the biggest association of, here in DC, representing all the different segments of the industry. So miners, NFT creators, venture funds, crypto exchanges. It was just starting to pick up after the infrastructure bill was passed in Congress a couple of years ago. And this industry that is quite libertarian, very much the ownership economy, all of a sudden realized it had to pay attention to what was going on in DC, in the White House and the agencies, in Congress, because there were no laws on the books around digital assets and this new economy. And it seemed to be the challenge of all challenges to be on the ground floor to figure out how, as Clev mentioned, how you govern and how the United States government oversees a permissionless, decentralized ecosystem that is getting more and more adoption every day. And it has been fascinating to see where that connective tissue is with disenfranchised communities, with minority communities, and kind of opening the eyes of everybody as to how powerful this is and how democratizing it is, quite frankly. And I'm anxious to talk about it.
Yeah, no, great background. Christian, I know you have an interesting journey into this space.
Yeah, no, well, thank you, Clev, and obviously it's great to be sitting in this panel with great speakers. How did I get started? So I'll just dive into my background really quickly. I was born and raised in Queens, New York, went on to college and spent 10 years in investment banking on Wall Street, right? So, and during those 10 years, I covered both the US market and then the Latin America market. So always leveraging the Spanish that I know to sort of be able to take care of those clients. Learn about capital markets, learn about lending, learned about the life cycle of a loan from the ground up. My mother came to this country in the 80s. She crossed the border illegally and sort of instilled that hard work and sort of that go-getter mentality and everything that she did. So that will tie into the end as to why I'm saying that. So after 10 years in Wall Street, I wanted to try something new because on Wall Street, specifically for the sector that I was covering, which was the energy space, we were financing long-established corporates, multinational companies, and it was a bit boring. It wasn't exciting anymore to me, right? So I started looking into other sectors. I started looking into fintech, looked into venture capital, and I actually quit February 2020, and you know what happened after that. So for me, the pandemic was a blessing in disguise because it allowed me to truly dive into and study on my own what Web3 was all about, understand the infrastructure, and be able to understand the many use cases that this technology allows to optimize the existing banking rails that exist. And obviously, they are very archaic, a lot of friction, and no one truly, I think 90% of the global population doesn't understand the back end or the technology stack when you transfer value globally, right? Obviously, having that unique perspective allowed me to understand that blockchain is revolutionary, right? It's very, it's borderless, right? And allows for an easy and cost-effective way to transfer value. Beyond that, and happy to go into that further, there's many ways this technology could be used across many other sectors, which is not just financial services, like philanthropy, like real-world assets, and sort of other sectors that we could talk about, e-commerce and whatnot. And to wrap it all up, I'm also a co-founder of Web3 Familia, which is a community that teaches Latinos or Spanish speakers globally about this new technology called Web3. And the reason Web3 Familia was born was because in my journey in Web3, everything that we did was in English. Everything that the developer community was putting out or reading was in English, right? So I said, wait, something has to be created, and why wait until somebody creates it? And that's what we did. So we've been activating online events, in real life events we've activated over 90 events across the United States, and also in Latin America, both online and in real life. And happy to dive into more of the many programs that we've created with Web3 Familia to be able to not only educate, but serve as a platform to amplify and showcase that our community are not only users, but also builders and investors in this new technology space.
Yeah, great insights. And I think for the audience, the big takeaway is there's many access points into this space, but at the end of the day, you can hear all of us came to it to solve problems, right? To address and tackle some of the issues. Now, I want to go into deeper with specific members of our panel. So Natalie, let's start with you, right? Latinos are really fueling the Web3 ecosystem, and that's the case in the US and in Latin. So what stands out to you? What are some of the things that we should know in terms of this whole, trend-setting space that's happening in Web3 and Latinas and the role they're playing?
I love that I'm no longer the best example of career you may have. So I work for Goldman Sachs, Microsoft, Amazon. I have 2 graduate degrees, one from Carnegie Mellon, one from MIT. Doesn't matter, right? So there's a lot of people, including my team at Darshana. We are working right now to put together global verifiable work credentials. So they are global former executives. They live all over the world, all Latinas, by the way. And they started thinking, okay, can I go to the hackathon with you because you're a builder, I'm not a builder? Like, just come and let's do it together. That happens in my own team.
Yeah.
I found examples around the world when we go to conferences and I grab somebody like it's a designer or, again, journalist, and then we can work together on things because it's about ideas and it's about like thinking how you can build. So this is what we've been doing, not only for Latinas in Latin America. I've seen Latinas in Spain, like we went to a conference and then they win hackathons because they're creative and they bring a different perspective. And they are on the stage and then pitching their own things. And so I've seen a lot of those examples and I'm super proud of them. Like sometimes I help them, but I cannot help them because they are a lot and they're doing a lot of things. But we're on the big stages because, it doesn't matter in Web3, right? So I'll share more examples after, but I'm glad, again, that I'm not the best example right now because that means that this is very democratic, that everybody has an opportunity to do that. And I've seen those ladies on the stage, and I'm super proud of them.
Yes. And that's an excellent point. Women have a deep bench in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, despite what you see on television. Mm-hmm. And it's so dynamic. And I think one of the points that you were making is that you don't need to be technical to engage in this space. And that brings us into Christian, right? You're passionate about training entrepreneurs, especially innovation-driven enterprises. So we know that non-technical individuals can build and help to build the future. Share some of the ways. I know, Natalie mentioned hackathons, but at the end of the day, that's such a great way to talk about training. Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit more, Christian.
Yeah, so as part of our community and the activation and the events and the activations that we do in real life, we've come to realize that the beauty about this ecosystem or this technology is that it's so new that universities don't teach it, high schools don't teach it, right? There's little certificates here and there, but the best way to learn is by doing.
Yes.
And it's crazy because sometimes you want to tinker into something new outside of your 9 to 5, and all these people that come to these conferences, some of them have been tinkering for a while, but they have no one to talk to or like test out their ideas or whatever, or talk about the projects that they're building. So all I want to say is that because the tech is so new, because there's no established curriculums or schools out there that are teaching it, there's a big opportunity for anyone in the world. You don't have to even have a college degree. You don't have to have a high school degree. The beautiful thing, I've been to hackathons, I've seen 16, 17-year-olds building product and getting funded. Because as long as you put in the time, YouTube University is beautiful. There's something called YouTube University. Look it up. You could learn this technology on your own. And what Natalie was saying, it democratizes building, being a builder, and adding value. You don't have to be technical. You don't have to be an engineer. If you're in sales, if you're in marketing, whether you're a cook, whether you are a plumber, anyone could learn this technology. And that's the beautiful thing about this ecosystem and this community. And I would say that's what Web3 Familia brings to the table. We are here to create a safe space where we want you to come and be your true self, right? And we do it in a culturally relevant way, right? We do events, we do panels, we listen to Bad Bunny, we're engineers, we're investors, right? We like reggaeton. You don't have to not be yourself to be a professional, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a former investment banker. I'm in venture capital today. I'm building up a business, and I love reggaeton. I love salsa. I love Cuban food. I love Puerto Rican food. And I think that's what gives me an edge whenever I enter into any room. And beyond that, I want to bring that authenticity to Web3 Familia and welcome everybody to just come and be yourself and learn this tech in a community that you can relate to. So, yeah.
I love that, because the beauty of this space is wherever you are, you don't have to become, this developer or techie. It's influencing every industry, so it doesn't require for you to actually change anything about who yourself or who you are. It's what is the problem you're trying to solve. And as a result of this work around education and training, most people do not know that Latino and Black communities lead national adoption of cryptocurrency by huge numbers. And so as a result, we have these communities that are building on this blockchain and cryptocurrency, but are doing it in an informed way. So Dave, get in here, right? We see so many founders and creators and community builders fueling this industry. What have you seen? How do you think the impact has been?
I think that Congressman Soto really threw out the big numbers. 9.1% of global remittances are sent to Latin America. I think the figure that he had was over $600 billion. The adoption rates are through the roof, and it's not just for payments, it's also for Latinx individuals using it for investments. So it's investing, and it's also using it to send money back home. We are seeing more companies use cryptocurrency and stablecoins for people to send money directly into their wallets to send to their family members abroad. So if they're paid by a paycheck, wherever they are, that can be converted into digital assets. It can then go wherever they want it to go. Think about how that works with clearing ACH with a check. How that's 4 days or 5 days, who knows, how much faster that is. As Christian was saying, the building is, and Natalie, there is limitless potential in a permissionless environment. So the largest amount of creators and developers and artists are from the Latino Latinx community. And that's something that we are trying to, especially in these hallways, at CHCI and with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, there is a gathering fire and enthusiasm among those House and Senate members to proclaim this and to champion it. And to do so in the face, and we won't go down this rabbit hole of all the negative stereotypes and demagoguing around the darker side of cryptocurrency. There's the perception of it's used to launder money, it's used to hide money. Well, that can be done with fiat currency or any kind of transacting. We like to think that on a blockchain, it's more transparent. You can see the flow, you can hunt down the bad guys, but you can also prop up the creative community, and you can also move money faster and to people who don't need to onboard through traditional finance, which, as I said at the beginning, takes longer and is just exclusionary.
That concept of making payments faster, cheaper, and automating them is revolutionary for us, right? So now let's get back into this whole concept of sending money back home, right? We know that digital assets like cryptocurrencies can help us send funds without all of those fees, and it's on both sides, right? For the diaspora communities, when I'm sending money back to Haiti, I'm paying a fee here, they're paying a fee to to take the money, but also they're paying to actually go to that money transfer place to actually get the funds. So it can be very expensive to send somebody $100. By the time they get it, it could be like what, $60? So let's dive into some of the ways that blockchain and cryptocurrency is optimizing or even making this process more efficient. So I'm just asking the panelists to share one example of where these cross-border payments, but simply sending money back home. And I know some of you have had personal examples. How has cryptocurrencies helped, but how can what's the potential? We'll start with you, Natalie.
So, the way that money gets faster to what it needs to get, that's good. The other thing that happens in Latin America, that happened in Venezuela like some years ago,
Yeah.
right? And in Peru in the 90s, I was a kid, and there was like, okay, what are the 9 zeros that were in this currency? They wipe out 9 zeros, and then you get whatever you used to pay for for bread, then you need to pay 1,000 times, 10,000 times more. Argentina is happening the same. So there's waves there. We get used to that, right, in Latin America. So, but that's important because the money gets there, but also, especially in Venezuela, Congressman was mentioning it, then the rate exchanges are crazy.
Yeah.
So here's a couple examples I found. So sometimes you have like, trust groups. So you don't need a super sophisticated platform or DeFi platform to do things. There's WhatsApp groups in Venezuela. Somebody that is trusted in the group receives the money and then distributes the money. And by having something so simple that trust, which is what blockchain is based, plus a trust group that distributes the money, that's good. And then I was advising a startup based in Peru. They started doing remittances via WhatsApp. And now they said, okay, we need something more formal. So they didn't jump into regulation, they jumped into blockchain to have that streamlined process all over like the countries they covering. So, okay, there's a lot of things going on. Doesn't need to start like super sophisticated, but if we have a group and we have trust, we can do things. So that's the thing that, it's organically growing on all these countries in Latin America, back and forth to US and other countries.
Yeah, no, great examples. Christian, do you want to get in here?
Yeah, I
what are your
think
thoughts?
two examples could be, let's talk about just transferring money amongst friends, right, peer-to-peer. Let's say it's a Sunday night, it's a Sunday, an emergency comes up, you need to take out, I don't know, cash, because, I don't know, the vendor that you're going to pay needs cash. You're screwed, right? Like, it's a high amount of cash, right? Let's say you need 20K or something. You can't, right? There's limits to how much money you could withdraw and whatnot from banks, and you need to wait till Monday. The beautiful thing about the blockchain, and sort of in the next couple of years, you'll be able to do that, fast, efficient, and in a cost-effective way, right? For a use case amongst us, our friends, our families. And then beyond that, internationally, I mean, it's an easy use case, it's for example, I asked my mom before coming here, I'm like, Ma, when you used to send money, how much did they charge you? How much did MoneyGram charge you? She was like, mijo, we used to send like about $100 and they used to charge us $5. And then she told me, you know how much one person working in the fields makes a day? $10. So you're literally paying in fees half of the wage of someone locally in Ecuador. And that could avoid them having food on the table, right? Or feeding their kids. That's a lot of money. So that's a simple human use case that is fundamental, that blockchain allows you to make it efficient, cost-effective, and it impacts humans, like the fundamentals of what a human needs are, right? So I'll leave that there with the local use case and the international use case.
Yeah. And I love that example because it's not just about, oh my God, we want people back home to get the funds, but here, wherever you are in the diaspora, you're concerned about getting the resources to your family and your friends because there's a dire need. So, with digital currencies like blockchain, we can actually solve the problem. Dave, I know you talk about this when you actually engage, members of Congress and staff and talk about remittances. Tell us a bit more about your thoughts.
Yeah, I would echo what everyone has said. It's all very true. That the average transaction time on the Ethereum network is now 12 seconds. It is, so the instantaneous aspect is everything that Christian said. And I remember when I worked for Congressman Clyburn, and they're good people that work in all industries, no matter what the industry is in DC, good advocates, but they would come in from the payday lending industry, and they would leave beforehand, and Mr. Clyburn was always very civil and gracious and would say, everybody is welcome. But he would paint the case for me about exactly how much money, to Christian's point, was shaved off of every transaction, and how executives and others at these companies are making swelled bonuses and salaries, but yet the people who actually use their services, to your point, are it's half of what they make, or it adds up to even more than that. And that's, again, what attracted me, I think, to this technology, and the fact that some of the apps, there's Felix, there's Bitso, others that are now very, very popular in Latin America for that instantaneous lightning transactions that are revolutionizing the way people send money home. I mean, I don't know the exact percentage of the unbanked or underbanked in the US or globally, but it's still an enormous number. And the best storyteller, and I think one of the greatest champions in Congress, is Richie Torres. And Congressman Torres tells a story of, and I'll get some of these data points wrong, but the gist of it is there. Congressman grew up single mom, and I believe both of his brothers were in and out of the prison system, and they were moving to different places to live as they went. And he was ahead of his time as a young teenager, and he was working odd jobs, and he was saving his money, saving his cash. Got to the point where he was like, I don't want to keep this at home, and he would go to a local credit union or bank and would say, I want to open an account. They'd say, there's no way. You have no utility bills, you have no fixed address, no nothing. And he learned about blockchain and crypto technology, and he said that this was not someone coming and telling him about it. He needed a place to store money for him and his mom and his brothers, and he found crypto. We have a lot of trouble telling these stories in Congress because we're finance people, or we're builders, or we're advocates working for the industry. When you hear it from someone sitting in the House chamber about how this changed his life, how he sends payments overseas to relatives and family, that's real, right? That's what resonates. That is a sitting lawmaker talking about this, and we're grateful. I mean, and there's only one of him, unfortunately, so he's telling that story as much as he can.
And obviously, we're here with CACI, across the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, some of the members of Congress there advocate for this issue, and certainly Congressman Torres has been such a champion, and certainly crypto. So, and for me, I think the fact that cryptocurrencies are borderless and bypassing that exchange rate. I know, like in Haiti, trying to convert something. I spent 7 months in Haiti trying to convert something. What's the U.S. version? The fact that cryptocurrencies can help alleviate some of those problems. I do want to shift to the fact that we're in Washington, and what should policy makers be doing. But I also want to note that that we're not saying that, oh my God, cryptocurrencies and blockchain solves every problem. Again, the more options individuals have, the more options our communities have, the more inclusive money becomes, the more efficient it becomes, and the more it works for our communities, especially communities it hasn't worked for in the past. So it's really about, we've been digitizing money for a long time, right? How do we make it work for the people who have been locked out of the financial markets? So again, now transition the conversation to, we are in the nation's capital, right? We're at the conference where the Congressional Hispanic Caucus has a lot of power in Washington. CACI, as an institution, is really trying to be that voice, be that bridge. I would like the panelists to talk about, at a high level, right, what does the Latino community need? How can members of Congress or policymakers help to tackle issues? Maybe it is remittances, how to send money back home, but maybe it is creating, more resources so that entrepreneurs from diverse communities can thrive. So we'll start with you, Christian.
It's a great question. Oh man, there's so much. High level. I think everyone, not just politicians, I think everyone private and public sector should keep an open mindset to new technology. Because this is not a blockchain issue, it's not a cryptocurrency issue, it's just technology in general, right? We all have unique identifiers in our pockets, right? We all have a license or a passport, right? To get a new license or a passport, it's so broken and it takes forever and it's horrible. This technology could make that a little faster. So I would say that's a simple use case of many use cases that I think I would welcome individuals both in the private and public space to just keep an open mindset, because saying a blanket no to innovation is just without informing yourself on the capabilities of the tech by just reading, I think it's wrong, right? I think even myself, right? For me to have an opinion on something that I've never done or even gotten my hands dirty on, I think it's not fair, right? Like, I played soccer growing up, and if I wanted to coach someone about certain tactics without playing soccer and not being in the field and not truly understanding the game, I don't think it's as valuable as me being in the game, right? So in general, I would say, yeah, let's welcome and let's be open-minded about innovation. Maybe not you as a CEO or you as a policymaker, your staffers or your staff in general. Welcome them to test it, to tinker with it, to break things, allow them to make mistakes, because that's the only way you'll learn. And then slowly but surely, you'll start seeing use cases, not only in the private sector, but in the public space, to just optimize and then, allow innovation to flourish. Because innovation and human capital, they don't care about borders, right? Innovation will flow to where it's allowed to flourish. Human capital will travel and go to where it's allowed to flourish. Private capital doesn't care about borders, right? So if you say no to innovation, you'll lose, not only innovation itself, human capital, but also private capital. And I think that's important to, a healthy ecosystem and a healthy economy.
Yeah, great points. Dave, I know you spent a lot of time talking about this, so let me get Natalie in before we actually have you.
100%.
So I'll say in general too, it's important for us to expose with an open mind to things.
Yeah.
I'm hacking right now as we speak. I'm just kidding. No. But I'm hacking remotely. I'm going to New York on Friday. There's a hackathon. I'm participating also because that's the only way I keep myself updated. I can study, but then if I have the hackathon at a deadline, and I bring my team to do that, that's a good thing to do. I aim that you can do that sometime. You don't need to go to Singapore. You can sign up online, then you have a timeline. You have workshops to learn, so that's a good way to do that. If you knew some of the things we were talking about, is good. If you didn't know, now you have great power, so you have great responsibility. You know who said that? Uncle Ben, right? So just pay attention to Uncle, not to me, but to Uncle Ben. So it's good that you're aware, and then if you're curious about that and you say, okay, I can bring value to the table, just do it. Hack. Go hack. It's like tons of fun. Tons of stress too, but tons of fun.
Oh my God. I love the Spider-Man reference. So Dave, I know you spent a lot of time talking to members of Congress in terms of what steps they can take. Can you share a few relevant ones to this community and this audience?
Absolutely. It's what both of my co-panelists have said is the number one thing. It's keeping an open mind about something new. New can be scary, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's technology and it's finance, or if it's technology mixed with finance. That's scary, especially to lawmakers of an older age. They just don't trust it. They equate it with social media and other large technology companies that they think have hurt democracy, that have interfered with elections, on and on. So there's that general paranoia and there's that general fear. The other thing that we are talking about every day is there is no umbrella regulatory framework over digital assets and blockchain technology. We want that. Right now, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, other regulatory agencies are using banking laws from the 30s and 40s. They don't fit. They can't be, bent around a permissionless, instant, global, technological financial regime. So we're working with congressional committees and major CHC leaders Congresswoman Caraveo, Congressman Soto, Congresswoman Salinas. There's tons of them that are voting for regulatory oversight and new laws on the books. That's going to take a while, and we're doing it with the noise over here that I said earlier about, well, North Korea uses crypto to evade sanctions. This is true no matter what medium you're using, no matter what method of finance you're using. But we want to make sure that we are making laws that keep companies and innovators here, and they don't go overseas or to other countries to build and launch their products and employ engineers and workforces, and they do it here.
Yeah, excellent point. And we want to take some questions because we're running low on time. So the one thing I would add to that is, right now, all of the policies that have been proposed around blockchain cryptocurrency have focused on consumer protection, but there has been zero focus on financial inclusion. What about access to capital for entrepreneurs building on blockchain? What about workforce training, financial literacy? We need members of Congress to talk about, yes, consumer protection, which says we want to protect you and don't participate. They have to also be talking about how do we make sure Latino communities can participate in the workforce, innovate as entrepreneurs, and also get the financial literacy education they need. So any questions as we wrap up? Oh, we have a question in the back.
We have a mic here. It's a little hard to hear if you want to. Thanks. Thank you so much for the insights. My name is Lily Genghis. I'm at the Caper Foundation. I'm running around from CHCI. And the panel I just came from, CBC, was focused on AI. So we'd love to take your take on the blockchain and the AI and the opportunities, but also some of the current limitations as folks are so enamored, right, with what AI can bring, but what especially, what are some of the unique advantages that this combined can provide, maybe on the security, the data protection, maybe more transparency? We'd love to get your take on that.
That's a topic that comes up a lot, this intersection of AI and crypto. Right. Any other questions? Because we can just tackle all of them. Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name is Manawara Hussain. I'm from University of San Francisco, migration studies student. My question is around regulation. If you see that as being necessary, and also how to ensure that Congress is truly understanding the space as they're regulating, and just your thoughts around that. Thank you.
Regulation and how to make sure Congress is understanding. Perfect. Lady in pink.
Hi. Well, I just want to thank you guys, first of all, for your amazing panel. And my question is, as someone with older parents, investing in crypto is just not an idea I can present to them without them thinking I'm crazy. So I think Web3 is a very interesting concept, but it makes it hard for Latinos as we are just now getting the hang of financial literacy. So what are the stepping stones to closing this gap and raise financial and digital literacy?
Financial literacy, very important in this intergenerational piece. Last question, and we're going to tackle all of them.
Yes, she kind of, my name is Cordero Delgadillo. I'm a cybersecurity lawyer at United Airlines, but I've been into crypto since about 2013. And they've been talking about regulation for a long time. It hasn't happened. In the EU and UK, there's things that are coming into law in 2024. Are we going to see something similar to that? Or hopefully we're going to get some type of financial literacy component to our regulation, or is it just going to be focused directly on consumer protection and, as I view it, exclusionary type of regulation?
Wonderful. Yeah, so great questions. So Dave, obviously we'll look to you to help with some of the regulation questions. Why don't we start with AI and then go into the intergenerational financial literacy question, and then into the regulation conference. So, do you want to start with AI?
Yes, so I've been building solutions for AI and based on AI and generative AI for the past year. there's a hype, but AI has been there for decades.
Yes.
Right? So the thing is, right now you have that applied to traditional solutions we have for anti-money laundering, for instance. Right now it's smarter, let's put it that way. And on the other hand, there's easier ways to build because generative AI helps you build and put the components together. So it's a good thing for blockchain too, and for crypto because you can build solutions, faster. The other thing, and I'm going to answer the question about the literacy, because generative AI also uses a lot of personalization. So you can build applications that are, generic, but then you get a little bit of better steps, reduce friction because it's personalized for some person that has some background or have some literacy. So that's better for us to build more personalized applications too. So there's a lot of things you can do with AI, but I really like the topics because it empowers all the builders.
Christian, can you build on the question about how do you educate your grandparents on crypto too?
That's a really hard question because that's how we started Web3 Familia. We wanted to make it simple that your abuelita could use it, right? So it's tough because one, I'm not an educator, so I'll be really frank. It was something that we were trying to tackle. It's tough. What I would say is that who knows, when you send an email, who understands the technology of how that email gets to point A to point B? Raise your hand. Not a lot of people, right? So it's hard. I would say what I love about entrepreneurs today, is that they're putting the technology under the hood, just like PayPal, just like Venmo, just like Zelle, right? And make it easy and pretty so just that anyone could use it commercially. We're not there just yet with technology, with the blockchain technology, and we will get there, I would say, in the next 3 to 5 years from a commercial perspective. So right now, the technology is still too early, right? And the use cases are still being tinkered with. And beyond that, the infrastructure is not strong enough and robust enough to go global or commercial. What I do want to talk about is entrepreneurship and also financial literacy. I think beyond just financial literacy, we should also vouch for tech literacy.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm such a proponent of entrepreneurship in general, because building a company from the ground up, you'll learn sales and marketing, you'll learn legal, you'll learn finance, you'll learn capital markets, you'll learn technology, right? So that's why I think entrepreneurship gives you freedom. Entrepreneurship makes you, an independent individual. And then that's why I wanted to go back to the story of my mother, right? I believe this technology, or just entrepreneurship in general, makes you independent and will give you freedom to avoid the story of my mother having to leave her country, cross the border here illegally to give me a better life, right? So entrepreneurship is the way to be, and that's why I'm a big proponent of entrepreneurship.
Great.
And Dave, regulation, there's so many questions here, but we're at the starting line. We're still early. The arc of legislation is long, so please weigh in here.
100%, yeah, and all this ties in because educating lawmakers and trying to bring them along to, if I have a Bank of America account, what do I do next? And that you really have to start at square one. Coinbase is the leader in doing this right now. Information sessions, staff discussions, bring in the leading creators to kind of sit down with a cohort of congressional staff and say, here is an NFT creator, here is how they have financed their lives, their parents, they've paid off their mortgage. Here is how they do it. Here is how it moves along the blockchain. We don't have a whole lot of help right now in the U.S. government and the Biden administration, saying this as a Democrat, because there's still a skeptical eye toward this technology and what I had said before about where they see illicit finance moving across it. And that is one of our biggest goals, is to just push back on these myths and to explain this. The Department of Commerce is the leading cabinet agency that's kind of leaning in to do education and to kind of look at open minds across the federal government and in commerce. They put in, as a response to the president's executive order exploring digital assets and blockchain technology, the Department of Commerce proposed college classes, information sessions, how to cultivate new engineers and business majors on blockchain technology and digital assets. We really applaud them. Secretary Gina Raimondo kind of stands out way among equals on her leadership there. But it's a really long game for 435 House members and 100 senators you have 30 minutes maybe with them and their staffs at one time, and you have to just bring them along and show them examples. Show them along a blockchain how you can check a ledger to find out where money is going, how